So if he can set that up a little bit better, it will get rid of those bubbles and it will allow him to then probably get a slightly better catch. Hey, Brenton here from Effortless Swimming. In today's episode of Feedback Friday, where we analyze someone's stroke, we've got a swimmer, Patrick, and he's a former pro cyclist or former competitive cyclist. And one of the things he mentioned in his notes here is that he has trouble with his kick. He knows it slows him down. He knows his legs are dragging, but he's not sure what to do to make the kick effective. And he said he's a lot quicker with fins on, which everyone pretty much is, but he knows that his feet are what's slowing him down. So what we're going to look at here is we'll have a look at his kick, see what he can do to improve it, and then look at what else he may want to work on from there. So the first thing that you'll see with the kick is that the legs do sit quite far away, quite a distance below the upper body. So in terms of body position, there is a lot of drag created there. So one of the things we'll look at from the side is what's the body position. And the more horizontal you can be, the better off you are. You can see that overall position is down to about there. So he's going to be copping a lot of that drag on top of his legs there because the legs sit below the line of his torso pretty much the entire time as he's swimming here. Now, what we want to have happen is for the legs to come up a little bit higher on those upward kicks. So the upward kick is when the leg comes up in that direction. There, that's the up kick. Now, he does all right on a few of these kicks. Like, that's not a bad lift of the leg. It's sort of coming from the glutes. But overall, you'll see that the kick is what we'd call kicking from the knees, which is where the knees tend to bend on the downwards kick and on the upwards kick. What we want to try and do a little bit more of is on those upward kicks, bring the leg up somewhat straight using the glute or the hip there. So to bring it up somewhat straight. If all of your downward kicks and upward kicks are coming from the knee bending, so that one's all right. But if you have a look at, say, this here, the knee is bending as we go through there. Now it's okay to have a bit of that, but if most of it's coming from there, the quad's always going to sit below the line of the body. So in order for him to change that, there's a few things that will be impacting him. The first one is he might have tight hip flexors, and being an ex-cyclist, there's a really high chance of that. So how could he improve his his flexibility through his hip flexors? Yoga is a really good way. Even just some basic yoga poses, even 5-10 minutes a couple times a week will improve that really well. And Kate Campbell did a training for some sort of junior swimmers here in Australia recently. She's the 100-meter freestyle champion, and she was showing some stretches that they were doing, and a lot of it was sort of yoga-based hip stretches and then sort of upper body stretches as well. So that can go a really long way. The other place that he might be impacted is glute strength. So if you have weak glutes and you find it very difficult to use them in those upward kicks, that's going to impact your ability to get this upward motion on the kick. So what a lot of people can benefit from is doing some glute strength exercises. That can be single leg glute bridges, or even just basic stuff where you're lying face down on the ground and you're lifting your legs off the ground, but making sure it comes from the glute and not from bending the knee. So you've got to lift it up using your butt cheek, essentially. So doing a couple things out of the water can help you to then transfer that into the water. So by doing that, he's going to help tighten up this kick, make it much narrower, and hopefully keep it within about this range that you can see here, as opposed to this range that we're getting as we play it on the side here, which I'll play for you now. So that'd be a really good way to, first of all, minimize the drag. Once he's got that in place, and that could take a number of weeks or even a number of months to really just make that change. The next thing we probably want to look at is what's happening out in front of him there, because you'll see that through the stroke, there's quite a few bubbles on the hand as he goes through the catch and the pull. Now that's not really the number one thing we want to look at, but if he sets himself up a little bit differently, a little bit better, he'll be able to be more effective. So you'll see here that we get, all right, probably a few too many bubbles on the hand through there. The reason for that is the elbow is landing in the water first, the hand is landing last. And so that kind of collects this air, traps this air on the forearm and the hand, and that causes it to go down with him as he begins his catch. and you see those bubbles there. Now, the reason we want to generally avoid the bubbles once you're through the catch is because it just means you're not going to be as effective with your catch. You're not going to hold as much water. So what we'd be looking to do here to start with is get those fingertips going first, keep that elbow slightly up, so enter a little bit earlier, and then slide the hand forwards out in front. Now we're going to show you a video here of what we want to happen, where the fingertips go first and then you kind of slide the hand in the water. So you can see how we want it to be done there. And that's the same on the left arm as it is the right arm. Again, you can just see the elbow lands in first. So if he can set that up a little bit better, it will get rid of those bubbles and it will allow him to then probably get a slightly better catch. So you can see from the front view, which we've got here, that through most of his strokes, he ends up going a little bit wide. All right, so I'm going to play this through. Have a look at the path of the hand here. That right arm and this left arm. So they're out quite wide. So if we have a look at where this left one goes, all right, the left hand starting there, it's in line with the shoulder. That's a nice position to be in. Then as he goes out to begin that catch, you'll see how wide that hand drifts. It drifts out a lot wider than his elbow. What we typically want to try and do there is don't let that hand go wider than the elbow, because if it does, it's going to be very hard to use your lats through the power phase of the stroke, which is through here. And if we look at that as an angle, as he's about to pass under the shoulder right here, the angle is 152. We want that to be 100 to 120 degrees as he's about to pass under the shoulder there. Reason being, he can use his lats a lot better, and that direction of the force will be a lot better as well, because if you're sort of pressing all the way out here, you're obviously not going to be as strong, and it's not going to be as effective as if his hand is somewhere around here, just a little bit wider than his shoulder there. So the place where we'd probably want to be is somewhere like this. And this is the power diamond that you may have seen me talk about in past videos. The power diamond, once your hand's passing under the shoulder, we want to see this half diamond shape. It's a triangle, because that is where you'll see all the very best swimmers. So it goes wide there on the left hand, and then it stays somewhat wide. And then the same thing happens on this right side, where you'll see that it drifts out a little bit wide there, but then see how far away that hand is from the hip on the exit. So he stays a little bit too wide the whole way through the entire stroke. And I'll just play it through slowly for you. And then what you'll probably notice here is he's not as compact as he could be through the stroke. And what I mean by compact is, if you imagine that you've got a 30 centimeter corridor that you're trying to keep your body within, and sort of try and just keep everything contained in. Now, it doesn't mean that the arms will sort of stay in that, but it does mean that we want to try and just be somewhat streamlined in the water. And with that quite wide stroke, it doesn't connect him as well as it could through the rest of the stroke. So what I would look to do here is, first of all, just work on the kick, make those changes, and then probably after that we'd be looking to get the entry right, fingers first, not go as wide through the catch. Now, the question then is, all right, well, that's great. How do you make those changes? With the kick, we've looked at that in terms of stretching and a bit of mobility work. The other thing that he may want to aim for there is just to do some pure kicking, isolate the kick. So that can be with fins on if he likes to start with, but just mixing up the kick. You can do vertical kick, you can do kick against the wall, kick on your left side, your right side, your front, your back. Different ways of kicking, some with fins and ideally some without, and also using a snorkel as you do it, because there's no shortcut to an effective kick. Sometimes you've just got to do the work and obviously make some of those technique changes as well. So I do that first. Then how can he change this hand entry? How can he get those fingers in first so that the elbow isn't entering first and he's carrying that water down, that air down with him? Number of ways you can do it. You've probably seen us recommend the 6-1-6 drill before. It's a great way to isolate that part of the stroke. It might also just be a matter of when he's swimming, he might just need to aim to enter a little bit earlier. So here, instead of out there, just aim to enter a little bit earlier, and that might make that change. And then in terms of the path of the hand, that will take probably a drill like a YMCA drill would be the best drill for him to do that. And that's going to help correct the path of his hand, because we generally want to isolate the movement or put it down to its simplest form, like with a drill like YMCA drill. Repeat that in his warm-up every time he swims, and that's going to start to change that muscle memory. And over the course of a few weeks and months, that's when we'll start to see those improvements coming. So that's the sort of order that I would look to work on things. And if you're not sure of what order to work on things in your stroke, I'll put a link below to our 5 core principles, and it goes 1 to 5. That's a pretty good path to follow, a pretty good format to follow in terms of what you should work on. So I'll put a link to that below. You can see it on our website, and that'll give you a pretty good structure of working on your own stroke. So check that out below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe below if you're not a subscriber. We're aiming to get to 200,000 by the end of the year. And I hope you enjoy these videos. We do them every week, and hitting the subscribe button means that you don't miss out on any of those videos. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week with another Feedback Friday.